Hey guys, today I'm going to do a quick little walk around and review of my 2021 Pro XP Ultimate. I ordered this back in November and then ended up getting it about 4 months later, so a lot quicker than the lead times right now, but I got it and here it is. I'll go through kind of my experience with it so far, what I've done to it, kind of my pros and cons, and maybe my likes and dislikes of the accessories I've got so far. So it's got about 150 miles of Kansas riding, so wooded trails and whatnot. And then we just got back from a trip out to Moab, Utah. Put about another 155 miles on it. So it's a little over 300 miles. Definitely broke in. Driven it pretty hard, but not to the point where I'm breaking stuff, but definitely seeing the limits of the machine. So we'll start. Sorry about the wind noise. It's kind of windy out here today, but we'll go ahead and start with the front of the machine. And if I see something that I don't go over, go ahead and drop a comment below, or I maybe make another video on it, kind of detailing it more. But starting with the front, I went ahead and did the Polaris OEM high coverage front bumper. I know some people don't like Polaris accessories just because they aren't built quite as good as you can get if someone manufactures it for you, or the steel isn't very good, whatever. I thought this was by far one of the nicest looking bumpers. It definitely covers quite a bit and it tucks in really well with that winch. So yeah, with that I did put the Polaris 4,500 pound winch on it. Knowing what I know now, I probably would have done a 6,000 pound winch and maybe done an aftermarket one instead of Polaris. It's definitely more expensive than I wanted to spend, but I also like kind of the features that Polaris gives you with that winch. But when we were out in Moab, I had to pull out one of my cousins out of Hell's Gate, and the 4,500 pounds did not cut it. It was definitely struggling, bogged the machine down pretty good. We got him out of there, but definitely would have been nice to have another 1,500 pounds on the winch and maybe done a snatch block or two or something. But that's kind of the front end. You can tell I got 32-inch tires. We'll go over that here after a bit. But the mirrors, they're the X-Bright mirrors, Amazon specials. The thing with mirrors on this machine, it's kind of hard to see around the back end of it. When you're sitting in it, the back fenders are definitely kind of in your view, but I think these mirrors are okay. They work pretty good just to see if someone's coming up next to you. You can't really see behind you a whole lot, but they get the job done. Plus they have those LEDs in them. They're not as bright as, say, Sector 7s or something, but they're also a fraction of the cost. So kind of went with that, and I liked how they mount. So with my windshield, they kind of clip onto the back of the bar there and tuck up pretty nice with the windshield, so you don't have any interference with that. Then with the windshield, I went with a Diamond S windshield. I was gonna have someone build me one, but I just couldn't. No one would build it exactly how I wanted to with the features, and I really wanted the vents up here or down here, and then up in the top. I don't know if you can see them up there, but I just like the idea of being able to close them if it's raining, open them if it's hot. With that windshield though, we did have to do a little modification. So I do have the Polaris OEM roof, and with it, I don't know if you can see up in there, but I had to notch the windshield out to clear the brackets. Wasn't a huge deal, but better than some of the other windshields. Some of the other ones I was looking at only went to about right here, and then with this roof there would have been about a 4-inch gap up underneath it, and I did not like that. This is the only one I could really find that worked the best with this actual roof. And then with that light bar, I did have to custom make those brackets. So I used, it's a rigid 32-inch light bar, and I used the rigid bracket. I don't know if you can see these beautiful welds, but the original bracket was about right here, and then it had this little flat piece on it. We kind of cut it right across there and added about a 1-inch spacer, and that kind of brought it up above the roof, and we did have to notch the roof in there. But I know some people don't like having to modify their accessories to get them to work, but I wanted to do that just because we do a lot of wooded trails. and that way the light bar is actually below the top of the roof line. And I know if you have it mounted on top of your roof, you can smack it with trees a lot, and it's still gonna get hit. It's still gonna hit trees up there, but not quite as bad as if it was mounted up on the top. Tucks it in there pretty nice, so that's the way I went. And then let's go inside here. The only really accessories I've got are the back little storage thing. I got that off of Amazon. Works pretty good. It's actually fairly waterproof. And then the NRP gated shifter. And that is probably one of my most exciting accessories I would say that I've got on this. I really like it. It functions very well. It does kind of suck to put in because all the bolts you have to take out on your center console. And then there's even a little push pin right up there. And you gotta take out that whole box to get to it. And it is not a very friendly job, but if you're gonna do it once, I would go ahead and do some insulation in the console. I didn't do it this time, but if I have to take it apart again, I probably will. Just to kind of seal up, get some of that heat out of there. Definitely would be nice. Coming out here to the outside again, I do have the Rock Block fender flares. I know there's a lot of companies out there that make them, definitely cheaper than Rock Block, but I kind of like their customization. I got their gray mud flaps, and then they have a little bit of touch of gray back here. I kind of liked it. I like the design, and they don't, out here in the back, they don't stick out real far. Some of them kind of come out, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 inches behind the machine. And yeah, it will stop the tires from flinging up stuff and coming in the back, but I just didn't really like the idea of that. They just kind of look goofy, especially once you start getting some mud on the machine and those fenders they kind of flap way down. I kind of like these ideas these mud flaps are kind of a little bit more sleek. They look a little bit better in my opinion. Let's see here. We'll talk about the protection underneath in a minute, but when you come to the back, I've got the OEM Polaris rear storage. I kind of like this one a little bit better. It just closes off the back lines really good. I know some people put the storage up front in the cooler where this storage is. It works. I mean, whatever your preference is. I just kind of like this idea. Tucks in a little bit nicer, in my opinion. And then I've got the Ozark 30 or 28 quart or 30 quart, whatever their smaller cooler is, tucked up there. It actually fits perfect. And then my little mounts, I know you can buy these from people that make them, but I just wanted to take my shot at making my own. I pretty much just made about a 45-degree bracket that I bolted these little clips to. I just got those off of Amazon. It was like 15 bucks. A little bit of scrap steel laying around in the shed. I probably had maybe $20, $25. And these mounts, they work pretty good. I didn't take my time on them, so they could be a little better, but they worked. Out in Moab, we were bouncing around all the time, and the cooler stayed in there, so worked good enough in my opinion. I do have a Tusk fire extinguisher up there. Hopefully I never have to use it on this machine, but you never know, and it doesn't hurt if someone's out on the trail and you come across them and they have a fire and don't have an extinguisher. It's kind of nice to have it, a little bit of peace of mind. So we'll go on. I think the last couple things are the underneath protection. So I do have the full factory UTV skid plate underneath. It is more expensive compared to some of the other ones, but I do really like this one. It seems, I mean, they all have pretty much the same coverage, pretty much same design. Kind of just depends on how they cut out. My dad's got a 2020 KRX 1000 and he's got a super ATV skid, and it just does not match up very good. He doesn't like it. It seems to be a little bit cheaper quality. With these, they actually have, I don't know if you can see up there, but they're kind of notched on the seams, so they overlap each other better, which makes for a little bit more of a seamless finish, and I think just keeps it from snagging on rocks more than you would like. It's crazy how much these actually absorb impacts. I got a couple pretty good gouges in them, but nothing too serious, especially for 150 miles in Moab. It's definitely holding up better than I would have thought. I do have one really good gouge on my trailing arm mount, which they got these nice little cup protectors that kind of go in there, but got a pretty good gouge out of that one. But if I didn't have it, probably would have smoked the trailing arm and maybe taken a mount out, or who knows. So definitely good protection on there. And then the trailing arms, I've got the Pro Armor skid plate, or protector arms, I guess, whatever you want to call it. I like them now that they're on. I like the design, kind of looks nice, but they were not fun to mount. The holes didn't really line up. It was really not fun to get those things on there. They work. I know people say those trailing arms are weak and probably going to bend eventually anyway, so those trailing arm guards are going to go to the trash, but for now it works pretty good. I think it looks good. I mean, functions good, so that's about all I needed to do. And then last but not least, I do have 32-inch ITP Coyote tires on it. So these are from a Turbo S. A friend loaned them to me to try out in Moab. We were just gonna, he wasn't out there, and he said they went out about a month before we did, and he said any bit of ground clearance you can get, it's gonna help you out there a ton. So he's like, you can take these tires out there if you want. So I took them up on the offer, and they were actually better than I could have expected. They gripped really well, which I think any tire out there is gonna grip pretty good on that sandstone. It's almost like you're driving on sandpaper. You got so much traction, but they worked pretty good. I don't have any complaints. I know a ton of people are gonna ask, oh, did you have to clutch? How did it do on the belt? Were you blowing belts? I see these comments all the time on Facebook and on forums of people saying, oh, can you do 32s with this machine? I have these fender flares or this skid plate. Are they gonna rub? Are they gonna blow the belt? Whatever. In my experience, 32s are not gonna do a thing to your machine. I think they look better, B, the function is better, and with these, which they say they're a 32, it depends, and this is my experience. If it's a true 32-inch tire, maybe you will have rubbing issues, but I can tell you right now, if you find some takeoffs from a Turbo S cheap, it is going to be a good upgrade to your machine. They run probably 30.5 to 31 inch, depending on how much air you've got in them. I ran about 10 PSI out there, never had any rubbing issues. I got plenty of clearance, which it's not turned either way right now, but you can see I don't have any rubbing issues going on in the front there, and that's one of the areas that they do tend to rub. And then as far as the clutching, OEM clutch, haven't touched it. The only thing I've done is take the clutch cover off and blow the clutches out. I did, however, I think slip the belt a couple times, and I think most of that was user error. We were kind of going up a little rock ledge, and it was kind of undercut underneath, and my back tires were kind of up underneath that ledge, and I didn't see it, so I tried to get on it and get it to crawl up over it, and obviously it was not going. I didn't let off in time, and I think it slipped a little bit. Nothing too bad. I couldn't smell the belt, no smoke, anything like that. And I had another similar situation happen a couple days before that, but no big deal. Ran perfectly fine the rest of the trip, and I mean, it's sitting here working pretty good. So I will be going back to the stock tires. I gotta give these back, but I will say if I can come across a cheap set of these, they're gonna last longer than the stock carnivores, I can tell you that. And then, I mean, they seem to hook up great. I heard they're not very good at mud, but I don't really mud bog it. I mean, we do get in some trails that have some mud on them every now and again, but in my opinion, these kind of offset. I mean, we're in dry pack dirt more than mud, so I think they would work just fine for us. And we actually did run into a little bit of sand dunes out in Moab, and obviously I had these tires on it, and they worked really well. If you're wondering if you need to get paddle tires for the dunes, I would say probably not. Depends on what you're doing. If you're drag racing, going up dunes, whatever you're doing, I mean, maybe. But if you're going out maybe once, twice a year, you can probably get away with stock tires or whatever. Just air them down a little bit and be good to go. But that's just my opinion. So far, these are the accessories I've got. Got any questions about any of them? or want to see anything more in depth, or I can maybe make a new video on it or answer any questions in the comments, let me know, and I'll probably give another update, maybe 500 miles or 1,000. I got a few more things that I want to do to this. I probably won't do any performance stuff for now. It's got plenty for the trails that we ride. But so yeah, that's my 2021 Pro XP Ultimate. If you got any questions, drop them down below, and we'll see you next time.